Hello again. In our last video, we introduced the midpoint formula and learned that the midpoint is found by averaging the two x coordinates and then averaging the two y coordinates. Now, let's use the midpoint formula with negative coordinates. So this is example number 4, and I want to find the midpoint for -6, 4, and 2, -8. Okay. So first, let's identify the coordinates. We have x sub 1, y sub 1, and that is -6, 4. We also have x sub 2 and y sub 2, and that equals to -8. Now the midpoint formula is as follows: m equals parentheses x sub 1 plus x sub 2, average of 2, y sub 1 plus y sub 2 divided by 2. So that's our midpoint formula. I'm going to simplify the information or substitute the information into our problem. Okay. So we have the midpoint formula. We have x sub 1, which is -6, and x sub 2, which is 2. I'm going to divide by 2. Moreover, we have 4, which is y sub 1, +4. And then we have plus, and notice y sub 2 is -8. So I'm going to put that in parentheses, -8 divided by 2. Okay. Now, if you want to, you can, put that in parentheses like that, just to train your mind that these two are separate from each other but need to be calculated together. So in doing so, we have m equals, so we take the difference of these two. So we have -6 plus 2. Taking the difference of the two, we end up with -4 divided by 2. Next, we have 4 plus -8. We have two numbers that are opposite. So we subtract and we take the sign of the larger number. So subtracting these two values, 8 minus 4 is going to be 4. And since the negative is the higher value, the result is going to be -4 divided by 2. Okay. So notice we have -2 divided by, or excuse me, -4 divided by 2. Then we have -4 divided by 2. So the midpoint is located between these 2 points at -2, comma, -2. So again, just to recap, this is the midpoint formula. Substituting our values in there, we had -6 plus 2 divided by 2, 4 plus a -8 divided by 2. Taking the difference of these two values, 6 minus -6 plus 2, we subtract. 6 minus 2 is -4 divided by 2. Moreover, 8 minus 4 is 4, taking the sign of the bigger number, which gives us -4. 2 divided into -4 is going to give us -2. 2 divided into -4 is going to give us -2. Now, a common error is a student writes that the midpoint formula is -6 plus 2, comma, 4 minus 8. And so they say, well, m equals -4 and -4. Let's just say that this is student A. Okay, so this is student A's work. So what did the student forget? Well, the student forgot to divide each sum by 2. Okay, so what they did was they calculated this and they got this. This part is correct. but they forgot to divide those values by 2. So remember, the midpoint is the average of the two x coordinates and the average of the two y coordinates. So we must divide both sums by 2. So the correct way to do it is what student B did. Student B said m equals -6 plus 2 divided by 2 and 4 minus 8 divided by 2. In doing so, the result will give you the proper value. Okay. So again, the proper value or the proper notation would be to take the x coordinates divided by 2, take the average, or excuse me, subtract the values of the y coordinates and divide by 2 in this case. Okay. So you have to be very, very careful when dealing or adding negative numbers. For example, suppose we have 4 plus -8 equals -4. Okay, so 4 plus -8 equals -4. Do not confuse the addition of a negative with a subtraction error. So remember, first add the x coordinates and divide by 2. That's the first thing. The second thing is to add the y coordinates and divide by 2. Then the third thing is to use parentheses when subtracting negative values. Always use parentheses. So in the next video, we will put distance and midpoint together in one final practice problem and conclude video 1. Again, thanks for watching.